Hi dear viewers, and welcome to a new interview from Pepiatt with Psycroptic and their singer,
Jason.
So, first off, you're from Tasmania, right?
Yeah.
Want to tell our viewers maybe a bit about it because it's quite an exotic place and they may be interested?
Well, Tasmania's a small island that sits off the bottom of Australia. It's about the size of Holland, but with about 500,000 people living there. So, a lot of natural beauty down there, and it's a great place to draw inspiration to write dark music.
Well, that's perfect because that is what I would have wanted to ask you. So, do you think it has inspired Psycroptic and the way your quite unique sound has come together?
I think definitely the place, I mean, there's a lot of isolation down there. The metal scene used to be very internal when we started, so we were not getting influenced by so much outside music, so obviously coming up with our own style. It's a pretty grim place down there in winter, so I suppose that's got a bit to do with it. But I mean, yeah, it's only half of us live there now. So me and Joe, guitarist, live there. Bass player's from New Jersey now, and Dave, our drummer, actually lives in Melbourne. So we're kind of mishmash of all over the place, but we'd still consider ourselves Tasmanian band. Obviously that's where it was started, and over half the band still lives there.
Well, the place where you live is at the end of the day where your heart lies, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
So you said that there isn't a lot of metal around, so are you like more or less the only metal band from Tasmania, or are there a couple of others?
These days there's a pretty decent metal scene down there, I think. I don't really keep up with the local scene so much anymore, but back when Psycroptic started, it was, only a handful of bands and no one was doing anything apart from local gigs. So we were kind of the only one, I suppose, that really, wanted to branch out and take our music to the world, really. So, yeah.
So yeah, kind of the volition to just do it and get out, spread the Tasmanian lifestyle to the people.
Yeah,
I get it.
Right.
So I wanted to talk a bit more about your quite unique playing style, especially the way you construct your riffs and the interplay. And I don't know, I mean, I guess you can tell me a bit about it, even though you're just the singer,
I mean, Joe, our guitarist, he's kind of the mastermind behind everything. He writes all the riffs, structures for the songs. I mean, things get changed a bit when we hit the studio, but he's got a very unique style of playing. He draws a lot of his influence. I mean, he's big into his thrash and stuff like that. And then you got me and Dave, who are more into your traditional black metal. Some of the older sort of nastier death metal bands, and I guess because we've all got our own things we draw our influences from when it all comes together, and we never really set out when we're in the writing process of an album, we never really set out to make it sound a certain way. It just kind of builds, and everyone brings their own parts to the table, and it just kind of meshes and turns into this fucking style that we don't know really where we sit in the metal scene, but it seems to have been working for us for 20 years now. Yeah,
it does, and yeah, it is honestly really unique. I can't think of another band that sounds like Psycroptic, and I mean, I think that's probably the biggest compliment one can get as a band.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing we always, me and Joe talk about it quite a bit. We're like, what sort of bands should we be touring with, because we don't sound like a straight up thrash band, we don't sound like a straight up tech death band or death metal band or what, so it's kind of like, what do we call ourselves, you know? And I mean, everyone always sticks us with the tech death label, which I don't know, from the band members' point of view, we don't really see ourselves as a tech death band, so we kind of just, when people say, what do you play, we're like, extreme metal, and you know, it's just a melting pot of everything.
Yeah, that's the usual cop-out, you know, we're extreme metal. Yeah. I personally always thought of you like, you know, technical groove metal, like you always bring the groove like a bit of Pantera.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much stuff thrown in there, and then I suppose my vocal style isn't typical of a death metal band or anything like that. It's probably more, I'd consider it more along the lines of, you know, like early Death, bands like early Sepultura stuff, Obituary, you know, that's the sort of stuff I'd say I more draw my influence from vocally, whereas a lot of people think that I'd probably draw my influences from hardcore bands. Not saying that I'm, you know, bands like Hatebreed and stuff I think are fucking great, but, you know, it's I take more influence from that sort of early traditional death metal and thrash metal sort of thing, and I suppose put my own spin on it.
That's actually interesting, because I also would have thought, you know, you're like a hardcore dude. Yeah. I can definitely see, you know, the old school like Death and Obituary influences and everything, but interesting. Yeah. And, you know, coming back to the thing, you know, about finding bands to tour with, is it, the way you put it, it sounded like it's complicated, but isn't it also like quite useful because you have all this different potential touring mates?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the moment, I mean, there's a broad mix of bands on this tour. I mean, Aversion's Crown, I suppose they're more sort of tech death, cross deathcore, I think they call it.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Atmospheric deathcore.
Yeah, and then you've got like Hadelmore, which is sort of kind of like that, I suppose, Meshuggah-y type thing, but a bit more eerie sounding. So, you know, I mean, we can put together some interesting packages, which, I mean, that works great for us as well. So, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, as somebody who has seen like a shit ton of bands, it's quite nice to have a diverse package and not just, you know, get the same stuff 5 times in a row.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, when Dave, our drummer, he I suppose selects the packages a little bit of when we're doing headlining runs of what bands we go out with, and I think, you know, that's the way he looks at it. I mean, I don't want to go to a show if I'm going to have 5 bands that are very similar in sound. I mean, you're going to get bored shitless with it, even if they're 5 great bands. You know, you can only, you know, like, enjoy that sort of thing.
It's like sensory overload.
Exactly.
I mean, or it's like, you know, eating your favorite dish 7 days a week, every meal. Yeah. I mean, even if it's the best dish in the world, you're gonna get fucking bored.
Sick of it. Yeah, exactly.
But actually, I wanted to get back a bit to your guitar player, and the fact he is quite a unique player, and you only have one player, even though you have backing tracks. Yeah. And I'm gonna ask you a bit more about that later. But for now, I'm interested. Do you think that it even would work if you had a second guitar player, or that it's kind of, your sound is kind of defined by just him being the mastermind?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. Joe's got such a unique style of playing that trying to find someone that had a similar enough style to him would be very difficult. And, you know, I mean, there's also, having a second guitar player adds a lot of cost to touring, which, you know, touring for us gets very expensive being from where we live. And I mean, playing to the backing track thing, it's more just something that's there to fill it out. It's not something that we try to hide or anything like that, but playing to a track can be really hard, because if you fuck up, you really fuck up. So it does put a lot of pressure on us to be tight and, you know our shit with it. So
sure. I mean, I agree, man. It's like always playing with a click track. It's essentially always being in the studio, isn't it?
Yeah,
You're always at your tightest. You always have to be at your tightest.
Yeah, and I mean, the way we play with the track and using the click and the rest of it, I mean, if we make a mistake, it's gonna stand out really bad, and potentially, you know, if we jump the gun and like fuck up our tempos or timing or changes or anything like that, it's kind of in the territory of having to stop middle of the song, and we haven't had to do that, which is good. I mean, we all do our homework, and playing to a click track as well. It's because we don't live, you know, in the same town, so doing that regular rehearsal thing for us it's just not an option. You know, we've got Todd lives on the other side of the world to us, so you know, playing to a click track means that everyone can do their homework. We can all rehearse at home individually, and then when we come together, tempo is going to be the same. You know, everything's set in stone so that we can just sort of put it all back together. You know, so it's very much got its advantages. And I mean, back in the early days before we used to use a track and a click and stuff like that, I mean, I've looked back at YouTube videos. There's one from, I think it was Party Sound, like 2009 or something like that. And
I actually remember that gig.
Yeah, and I was watching a video and we're playing Observant, which is, I mean, that song's fast, you know, at the album speed. But when looking back live, we used to actually play everything even faster than what it was recorded. And you know, when we were starting to watch back at it, we're thinking, fuck, you know, it's at the point where the songs are starting to sound rushed, you know, and they lose that feel that they were written to have. So playing with a click, I mean, when we first started playing with a click, we were kind of like, well, these songs are really easy now because we were used to playing them so fast. But, you know, and when we started with a click, you could watch back our live shows on YouTube and stuff like that. And it was like, wow, it sounds so much better because you got your consistent tempos, the feels right, the grooves are right for how they were written. So, I mean, I think it was the best decision we could have made as a band, you know, for our live show anyway.
Yeah, it does sound like it, and you know, I have to agree as somebody who has seen you for quite some time over the years. I think your show definitely has improved since you've been using click tracks.
Yeah,
so, good decision, I would say. And you know, coming back to the thing with not being able to practice a lot, I'd be interested how does that translate? You know, writing new material. You know, as I understand it, your guitar player does write most of it, but then how does the drummer come into it, or how do you come into it?
Well, it's pretty much he'll record all the songs. I mean, in its most, I suppose, basic form. So all the feel, the grooves, everything will be there.
Also with a drum computer, drum track.
Yeah. So he'll put down. I mean, Dave and Joe are brothers, and been playing together forever. So Joe kind of knows, I guess, with his riffs and with his songs, he's got a fair idea of how Dave's going to want to drum it. So he'll lay down, you know, rough drum tracks and stuff. It's just the grooves, the feels, you know, where the blast beats will be and stuff like that. And then he'll send that all out. 'Cause Joe's a studio engineer, so it's added advantage. But so he'll just send, you know, the songs in its most basic form out to everyone, and then I'll start writing my parts. Dave will sort of refine, and you know, some of the feels and everything will get changed, but you know, the backbone of the song is still the same, and everyone just sort of pieces it together. And then when we get to the studio, but the funny thing is, I mean, with Psycroptic albums, is a lot of the times when it comes to learning the songs off the album that we're going to play, you know, we've never actually played them as a band together. So it's just been built up in the studio, and then it's kind of like, shit, now we've got to learn how to play it. And you discover a few things that you think, oh shit, you know, this is really fucking hard and stuff, and you got to work really hard at it. But I mean, that's the way we've done it probably for about the last 3 to 4 albums, and seems to be yielding great results. And you know,
Yeah, every album does sound better than the last one, I would say. So I have to agree, definitely.
Yeah.
And coming back to you, I would like to talk a bit about the lyrics of the last album, As the King Grounds. Before I start asking my loaded questions, do you want to tell something about it, something that's, important to you about the lyrics? Or?
Yeah, well, I mean, the lyrics... My lyrics in general, I'm kind of, I suppose, a bit of a, how would I put it? With most of my lyrics, it's kind of looking at mankind, the way we treat the earth, the things where we're fucking up, and, I suppose it's a bit cliched to an extent, but it's, I mean, that's the broader picture of it, but it's... I suppose it's just my views and ideas on the world, how I see things, the things I think are fucking bullshit with the way things are, and I try to write in not such a direct way, I suppose, leaving it open for the listener to make their own interpretation, but yes, I mean, some of the ideas, I suppose, are quite deep on it. It takes me fucking forever to write it.
Well, that's the sign of good lyrics, if it takes time. And I would say I definitely got the vibe of, the impending climate catastrophe and everything, we were just the keepers, or, us the kingdom grounds, but it's a great metaphor for it.
I mean, we were the keepers. That was the first song I wrote for the album, and, the chorus, I suppose, of that song kind of, it sums the album up a little bit, talking about how, I suppose, we're just the guardians of the planet, and we're not doing a very fucking good job of it right now, and I suppose that's kind of a summary in a way as to what it's about and my ideas about. I mean, the title track, As the Kingdom Drowns, is kind of, it goes into, I suppose, I mean, you're looking at the planet that we live on is millions of years old, and I suppose exploring the idea of, has humanity come this far or further before millions of years ago, and
we were just the keepers definitely sounds like a leitmotif to me, it defined all the lyrics, which is a really cool thing to have, and also get definitely a vibe, talk like it's song directive or something, criticizing prophet before habitat or before mankind.
Definitely.
So it's not just, you don't just write lyrics to have something to put cool growls, so you definitely care about it.
I know when I get into a song or an album, and sometimes you really love it, and then you read the lyrics and you think, fuck, this has had no thought put into it. And I don't want to be one of those people, I want my lyrics to be maybe a little thought-provoking, people can read it and go, fuck.
Something additional, just for the people who care that they actually get something nice.
Exactly.
And I always say great music has great lyrics. It's not possible to separate one from each other. So in that case, I would like to ask how do you kind of marry the two aspects? Having cool, groovy parts, interesting parts, and writing good lyrics for it. Do you start with the lyrics and then kind of play around, or do you start with a nice idea and then try to write lyrics?
I generally will write the lyrics to the song, so I'll basically have a layout of the song, and with the obvious, these are the verses, this is the chorus, and I just kind of just go with it. And I suppose, I've been working with the band for so many years now, I suppose I've just got my way that I sing to, whatever feel Joe's putting across on the guitars. And so the lyrics basically, I don't know, the grooves and the way that they're sung to the song kind of, it's almost like they write themselves for me a little bit. So
they kind of grow out of the song, and it's just not a specific way how we do it. It's just...
No. The choruses on this album, on the latest one, it's kind of, there's been, I probably played around with those a little bit more and having ideas with having the operatic choir style vocals in the choruses and stuff. So there was a fair bit of work that went into those, and a lot of like chopping and changing and trying to figure out how to, I suppose, get the biggest feel out of it, you know, getting the biggest sound. So, but I mean, yeah, in general, I mean, there's usually a lot of weed involved when I'm writing, you know, and that often helps the creativity.
I get it. But actually, I wanted to talk a bit now. You told, you know, you're obviously interested about, you know, preserving nature, and, you know, you're quite let's say proud of the nice nature in Tasmania, and it's also something that you could say about Swiss people. So, do you think there are any, you know, things that, you know, connect Switzerland and Tasmania or something?
I hadn't really thought about it too much, to be honest, but I mean, they're both beautiful landscapes. That's the obvious one. But I mean, I love Switzerland, driving through the Alps, and it's incredible. But then, yeah, I mean, Tasmania as well, driving through there, it's amazing. I went for a big drive through the centre of Tasmania with my children over the Christmas break and through the mountain ranges. So I don't know, I just like getting out in nature and getting out of the rat race of the cities and all that. So yeah,
I get that, but it was actually a loaded question, because I wanted to tell an anecdote that I know which actually connects Switzerland and Tasmania in a quite concrete way. In Switzerland, we have a government program to, you know, dispense heroin to, you know, heroin addicts, so they can function better. And the poppy seeds that are needed to produce heroin are produced in Tasmania. Yes,
there's poppy fields all through the centre of the island, up the coast. It's fucking everywhere.
Yeah, I actually have a postcard at home with beautiful poppy fields.
Yeah. Oh, they're ginormous down there as well. I suppose we don't really have a heroin problem down there, which is, I suppose it's strange but good.
And the reasoning I've been told is that, you know, it's just the most cost efficient, because nobody's around to steal the poppy seeds, because Tasmania is so remote. So it's more efficient to do it that way.
More than likely, yeah. It's hours drive from anywhere to where the poppy fields are.
But I just wanted to abuse this interview to put that anecdote out there. That's great. Yeah. But any final thoughts, something to tell your Swiss fans, or in general your fans?
Keep an eye out for us in Europe. We'll be back, I think it's June. We're coming back for some festivals. Hopefully the follow-up to the latest album won't take as long as usual. No promises, though, because it can take quite some time.
Fucking take your time. I'd rather have you take your time and the albums are good than, you know, 2 years in a row every time and boring albums.
Yeah, I mean, and I suppose that's the reason why our albums aren't out as frequently as what some people would like, because, I mean, we like to tour a lot, and we also like to spend the time to get the product we want with the albums. So unfortunately, it means a lot of the time people just have to wait that extra year.
Well, you know, people usually don't know what they want. So yeah, they want every 2 years a Psycroptic album, but they don't know what that will mean. So.
Yeah, exactly. We try to keep everyone guessing. Each album's got to be different to the last. So yeah.
So, well, great.
No worries. Thanks for your time.
Well, yeah, thank you for the interview. And, you know, dear viewers, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, all the usual call to action stuff, and like Psycroptic, go to the shows, buy their merch, support this unique technical groove band.
Well, any better myself.
Yeah. Have a good one. Bye.
Oh, cheers. Awesome.
What's a good interview up there?
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot.
Not a problem, man. Thanks. I like those interviews where it's just more of a conversation flow than when you get an interview that is like reading off a card.
We had a...
Can you tell me how long your band...